What's up, guys? Here again today, another week, another blue car video. Today, we're gonna open up the exhaust a little bit. In my hands, I have our ZZP Midlength header and downpipe combo. Nice, affordable, mid-range LSJ exhaust mod. So this is gonna obviously replace our stock manifold. And then we've got our 2.5-inch straight through mandrel bent downpipe. The LSJ exhaust, not too bad overall, not too restrictive. Tim was actually just telling me he cut up a stock muffler years ago and not really any restriction there. So I'm gonna keep the stock muffler. I'm gonna open up just after the head. The one area of restriction in the stock system is gonna be your downpipe. So once we get that off, we'll show you that. Another quick how-to, you guys are loving the videos, I like making them, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this stuff off. As I always am saying, this is a old, rusty Michigan car, so we might run into some snags along the way, but we'll make it happen. So we'll start off up top here, show you a couple of quick tricks, get some stuff out of the way, then we'll go underneath, get the downpipe off, and then go up top again and get the manifold out. All right, so we're gonna start from the top. Obviously, two-piece unit going back in. The stock manifold and downpipe combo, because of the cat, you can't get it all out at once. The downpipe will go at the bottom, the manifold will come out the top. It is tight, it does kind of suck. I'm thankful that I've got a lift to do it. If you have a lift or a buddy's lift, try and do it on there. So what I'm gonna do to start off here is, obviously on an LSJ, the exhaust is on the back side. Makes it a little inconvenient to get things off, but overall, not too bad. So you can see back here, you've got your PCV line. I'm gonna undo these and then undo the bolts so I can pull that line out just to give me, a couple extra bits of room. I had never used one of these little magic crimpy boy tools, but for constant tension clamps, this thing is sweet. All right, now that those constant tension clamps are off, gonna work these off like we did in the intake video. A little easier now. This one is usually pretty easy. And then this line has a 10 mil up here. That gets that loose. And then around the back side, we've got a couple 13 mils. That hold this bracket on. All right, so we got those out of the way. Gonna undo this clip to the fuel line. So we can move that out of the way. And from here, now we have a lot better room, a lot more room to work. This obviously can kind of get shoved off to the side. Now that we've got that PCV line out of the way, freed up a little bit of room, being a Michigan car, if you guys are in the South, you probably are lucky and don't have to do this as much. PB blast everything. Before you start working on the car, use some PB blaster, use it on the manifold to downpipe bolts. Those ones are always tricky. And then especially the downpipe to catback bolts. We'll get this up in the air in a second, and you'll see that Michigan has already taken its toll on 2 of the bolts. Before we go up, or before you go under if you're working on the ground, I would recommend undoing your stock primary O2 sensor just from the cable. If you can get a O2 socket down in there and get it off, then more power to you. You can leave it hanging. Again, Northern car, it's gonna suck. Probably have to put it in the vise and yank on it. Before you do all this, if you need a new O2 sensor, we have them in stock almost always. Grab one of those. You know, if you're running on the original O2, you don't have to replace it, but it's always a good maintenance item that a lot of people miss. So I'm gonna undo this O2 sensor, we'll get her up in the air and start working on getting the downpipe off. There we go. All right, so primary O2 is disconnected. We'll get this bad boy in the air. Car's in the air. You're working under here, you're trying to get your stock downpipe off. It's a bit of a pain. I've been there. I did my old 2.2 in my parking lot many, many times. I've changed exhaust setups on like three or four times. Anyway, so now that we're under here, you can see good old Michigan has taken a casualty on here. I popped it up in the air, tried to get things a little loose, PB blasted before we started, and these studs, well, they became butter. So those stripped right off. I'm not concerned about the rest of the catback today. I'm doing something unique there. So obviously we need to get the stock downpipe off. O2 sensor here. Again, I tried beforehand to get this loose, wasn't able. So what I'm gonna do, same thing I did on the primary O2, is just unplug it, bring it down. You can get it out later, or put your new one in. I went ahead and blasted those nuts, you know, those blasted nuts. They just move a little easier. Blasted those before we got here. Your stock manifold to downpipe is gonna have 3 15 mils. If they've never moved before, they're gonna be hard to move, so be prepared. Maybe give them a little heat. But I'm just gonna use a long neck 15. Get up in here. Eric, if you wanna try and get up in there, you can see. Thankfully, it looks like someone replaced the flex section on this already. Who knows how long ago. But these ones are willing to move. We'll get these guys. Okay. Oh. Not quite as easy, but these long ratchets are nice for some leverage. You know, for being a 2006 with 140 something thousand miles on it, really not bad down here. I've seen worse. You know, we've got our ZZP mounts in here. That was, I think, the first thing I did. I'll recommend those to anybody. The front and the rear trans mount, game changer. The top engine mount, we are actually currently redoing that, revising it, so. All right, 2 of 3 out. The nice thing about our mid-length header is it's actually a V-band from the header to the downpipe, so makes taking it on and off a heck of a lot easier than 2 and 3 bolts. You know, I like them in certain applications, and they can be a little tricky to line up, but for that connection specifically, I think it's great. So I did this a little backwards. I did the bottom 2, then came back up to the top, just because I was waiting for the PB blaster to work its magic. But while we're waiting on that, I know a lot of you guys email in, call in, and are curious what route to go. For the LSJs, we have basically 3 different combos. You've got your shorty header and 2.5 inch downpipe. We've got our mid-length header in 2 different primary configurations, and our long tube header. you know, it's not rocket science. Obviously, more choices means more wallowing over which one am I going to choose, which one, you know, do I want to run. For me, the choice was pretty easy. Our mid-length combo, if you actually price it all out, is right in the center, kind of as the name suggests. You get most of the benefits of a long tube in a slightly cheaper package, all while retaining some of the ease of installation and kind of daily drivability with what you would get with the shorty. So shorty and ZZP downpipe I would recommend for most people who either want a stock replacement or are just looking for a small bump, you know, somebody running on 93, nice daily driver, doesn't want to increase the sound at all. Mid-length is nice because we offer 1.5 or 1.75 inch primaries. Now, for myself specifically, I went with the 1.5. Our website makes it pretty clear which one you want. With my car, since the beginning, you guys have known that this is kind of like as fun as I can make a daily driver build, at least for now. You know, I have some goals down the road, maybe a time attack car, we'll see. But I went with the 1.5s to keep some torque down low. And then the mid-length kind of give me that simulated long tubes. Now with the long tubes, that's going to be for your all-out build. If you're really reaching for records or looking for 300 wheel on your M62, I'm not. Long tubes give you a lot more flow up top. You sacrifice some torque down low. So since this is my daily, at least, you know, when I'm not driving the Camaro or the base model or whatever, I got too many cars. But keep a little bit of that torque. We'll get it installed. Up to you guys, whichever one you want. If you need any advice, feel free to email me, customer service. I've rambled on long enough. Let's get this last nut. This one is always a pain just because of the location. My long boy isn't doing it, so I'm gonna grab a shorter ratchet. Whoa, maybe not. Whew. That one is stuck. Remember 1.5 minutes ago when I said get the last one from the top? Well, for me, it's a lot easier from the bottom. So I was able to actually push on the ratchet instead of pull. And still a little stubborn, but we'll get there. There she blows. All right. Now that I've got rust all over me, all up in my hair, she cracked loose. There she blows. So, like I mentioned earlier, you can see that stock flex section, it's already been replaced. That's no ZZP unit. Especially not some ZZP welding. Ugh. Good old stock cat. Now when I talked earlier about there being one main restriction in the system, that's going to be here. It's not as bad as the Grand Prix and their U-bend, but you can see where that O2 sensor goes in. It definitely necks down. And then with this replacement, it's a little shallower right there, but you know, if you guys want to stick with stock downpipe and do a shorty header, you can do that. I ran that combo for a bit on my other car. All right, now that we have our downpipe off, we need to get the stock manifold off. It's going to be a little tight back there to get cameras in. We've got a GoPro rolling. Hopefully we'll get you some good shots, but I brought the LSJ mock-up engine over to kind of show you guys what you're working with. So your manifold's going to sit just like that, snug up against the head. These top row, fairly easy to get at, usually just a 13 and an extension. These side ones and then this bottom one is where they get a little tricky. Once we get the stock manifold off, you'll kind of see how that spacing is there, but going back in is going to be quite a bit easier, less casting to get around. So we'll work this back off and we'll start getting these nuts off the stock manifold. Stock manifold studs are 13 mil. They're pretty tight up against the manifold, so like I couldn't get my long ratcheting wrench in there. So I just went with 13 on an extension, and you should be able to get most of them off that way. What I'm gonna do is break them loose with this, and then I've got my fancy dancy Milwaukee M12 that I'll whip them off, but you don't need those fancy tools. These ones usually aren't too bad. What you might notice, and I guess we'll see when we get mine out, is oftentimes they'll actually pull the whole stud out of the head. That's fine. If you want, make things easier going back in, we sell replacement studs. So, first one, out without a hassle. Three and a half hours later, I got all the studs out. As you can see, I'm a little sweaty. No, it wasn't that long. Not too bad, but actually it's one of the better that I've had. So now, we got all our studs and our nuts out. This is the fun part. Getting the manifold up and out. Woo. There she is. Old rusty trusty. Yeah, you can see that's going to be a bit of an upgrade. Stock exhaust gasket's even still intact. A little dirty, but that'll do. So, as you can see, the one that came out of the car is she's been used. Could probably still run it, but I like our ZZP ones with the fire ring. They hold up a little better, and this crushing material I think just seals nicely. So, you know, you'll follow your stock pattern there. Obviously, the two holes are going to be on the driver's side. So you'll get that in there before your manifold. Now, on a blower setup or NA, there's really no need to use copper gasket. We do like it sometimes when you're running a turbo manifold, but yeah, no need in this application. So now that we have that out, I got to get my primary O2 out. Not bad. All right, primary O2, and yeah, that's a little not good. So I'm gonna get myself a primary O2. While we're at it, we'll check the secondary as well. Yep. I'm surprised that it's still in good shape, because all the units on HP tuners have been looking fine. I might go throw it in the vise real quick. All right, feeble attempt to save the secondary O2. Yep, nope. She's done for, boys. Well, new secondary O2. Stock manifold is out. Time to put the mid-length in. So it'll go back in via the top. Nothing magical about it. Just take your time. I did install my primary O2. I'm sure you guys have noticed, but obviously I removed my strut tower bar. Ain't no way you're getting one of these in with that still on. All right, so once you're down in there, and hopefully our GoPro's capturing this magic, you're gonna get it mated up against the head. But lining up the bolts is the tricky part. Okay, header's installed from the top. Now we got to put the downpipe in from the bottom. Like I mentioned earlier, V-band on this end. Nice, quick, easy on and off. However, it's a lot easier with a buddy. So Trev's going to give me a hand holding this. I've got my V-band already on, so he'll hold that about where it needs to be. I'll get this lined up and started. All right, and Trev, you can go ahead and let go. You're good there. Basically what you want to look for is that you just have a flat connection on both of the V-bands, and you want to orient it for your exhaust. So it looks good there. Start snugging this up. I believe our V-bands use a 13. I'll get this one rolling. All right, that's good there. Obviously, if I had my catback ready or connected, I'd be able to rotate it so it sits correctly. But for now, we're not gonna mess with the catback, so you can see your secondary O2 just too short. So we do include a O2 extension harness, so you can route this how you want, keep it away from the exhaust. Tuck that up and away. Get this all situated before I tighten everything down. All right, secondary O2 is connected. I'll go ahead and zip tie that extension off in a moment. Your primary doesn't need an extension. Bada bing, and it even connects back in the stock spot. All right, so you'll notice on mine, and you can option this if you want, I do have an extra spot for a wideband. I don't have one yet. I would recommend one to anybody who's doing remote tuning or just wants to, know a little more about their car. Your secondary O2 is always going to go post cap. So, whether the bung is there or there, this one's going to be for wideband, that one's going to be for secondary. I'll go ahead and tighten up this V-band, and then that'll be about it. We're back, different day, same shorts, I think. So the other day I left off, we had just finished up the mid-length header and downpipe. I had mentioned that I was doing some other exhaust mods, and now that it's all finished and buttoned up, I figured I'd give you guys a little tour since it's kind of unconventional. It's not a total off-the-shelf product, but you actually could make this at home if you wanted to. So it's an unfortunate fact of life that LSJs aren't the best sounding engines, especially supercharged. So what I did was I wanted to retain the stock muffler. I thought that was going to be the best bet for the best sound, but obviously I wanted a little more flow. We showed you the install the other day, so we'll start up here. We got the mid-length header and downpipe all installed. Give you a little extra lights. One thing to note, if you do the mid-length header install yourself, the paint will bake off in the first start or two. So if you see a little smoke under the hood, that's okay. So coming down the line, we got our downpipe with the high flow cat, obviously. I got the wideband already in there. That'll go in very soon. And then this is where it starts to get a little bit unconventional. So this is one of our newer resonators. It's, I think it's our compact resonator on the site. It's 20 inches in length versus the traditional Ecotec resonator that's quite a bit larger. I went with this one because it's smaller in diameter and it won't be hanging as low, which is one of the only downfalls of our other one. And then going back, just a little straight piece here, and then these two pieces are off the shelf off of our 2.5-inch catback. So you're going around the gas tank, over the hump, and then at the suggestion of Al, because I was just gonna keep the S sections from the stock piece and replace the resonator, but he said, why don't you cut this back here and V-band it? So stock muffler still, it appears stock, it sounds stock plus 20%, which is really what I wanted. But since I got a V-band here, 1 bolt, if I ever want to get rowdy, I can take that off, put a turn down, whatever I want. I'm old now, so I don't think I'll be doing that, but you never know. Maybe one day I want to get a little louder. So we'll get her off the lift, take some sound clips, maybe a couple drive-bys. I really like it. It's breaking in. The resonators take about a week to really kind of soot up, and that's when the tone gets really nice. It's been 3 or 4 days now. But yeah, I'm super happy. If anyone wants to replicate this, I can help you. Obviously, you'll need somebody to weld, but just a couple V-band rings and bumped up the stock muffler. So we'll get her out there. Let me know what you guys think. I really enjoy it. It's not too loud, but it has a little bit of a different tone, and it's a little louder than stock. So, all right, about to fire it up for you guys. One pro tip that I wanted to mention that a buddy, Mike Johnson, told me years ago. I got this muffler on the other day, and it was sitting all wonky that way. It's pretty centered now, but if you look in there, you can see I've got little worm drive clamps. Put them around the hangers to keep them exactly where you want, and it won't shift. So, you know, if you ever have trouble getting your hangers lined up or they keep slipping off, throw a worm drive clamp on. Works great.